Welcome, monster maniacs, to another stupendously hideous creature feature, our second of the new season of Monsters of Rock, the LORDI story. I'm your host, Matthew Kessie, and on this edition, we venture through the void, crossing into another dimension, as we decode the cybernetic workings of the Inhumanoid Kone and his electrically charged influence on LORDI's recent update, SCREEM WRITERS GUILD.
And when we first spoke, you were a little bit hesitant in a way, or kind of you hoped that people would take warmly to you and that people would come to understand you as the new guitarist of LORDI and not just like you trying to take over from Eamon, and that you're this new dude coming in. So I wonder, what was that experience like for you coming in? What was the reaction like from the fans when you were first announced as a new member of LORDI?
It was surprising, actually. The fans took it really well, and I guess part of that is because I was published as a character. They didn't just put out a name, so here's the name of the new guy, but there was the picture of the character, and people seemed to instantly bond with that image.
Mm.
And I was surprised how well I was received, and it felt great. And people in general were very, very much supportive.
Yeah. And was that did you find that it was handled well in the way that that you were brought into the band and that you were announced? Like, there was a lot of respect obviously given to Eamon at the same time, and then when you're coming in as well, there's a lot of positivity around your announcement at the same time, which is, it's a tricky balance to play, but I think you guys managed to kind of pull that off.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, it's an extremely difficult situation for any band. Or stuff like that, and I don't think there would have been a better way to handle it.
No.
And
yeah.
There was minimal public discussions about the last guy leaving, and also there was no the band in public or in social media wasn't like celebrating or tooting the horn that there is a new guy and there's a change in personnel. They just kind of announced that because people know there's gonna be a new guy. Yeah. They announced a new guy and that's it. And
exactly,
it's a good balance between saying a lot and not saying a lot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then of course when you kind of are announced, you have obviously the summer festivals coming up and so you performed on them, and then you had Lord of Versa tour at the same time then after in the fall of last year. So I was wondering, what was the experience for you to kind of go on stage and perform in the costume and the fans' reaction then to you as well, because you bring a very positive and energetic performance to the stage.
It was super frightening at first.
Really? Okay.
I do remember the first show was pretty much terrifying. I wasn't feeling scared or nervous or anything up until we actually got on stage. And the noise was hellishly loud, which I love, but it took me by surprise that, okay, this is fucking loud. and I do remember at the first show I was still feeling very much unsure of am I doing this right, or am I moving the right way, or am I standing in the right place? And I've actually been watching watching over some footage from my first shows and like comparing them to some later shows.
Okay.
And it's been fun to see that. Luckily, my stage persona has evolved a lot in like a relatively short time in the band.
Yeah, that's true. And then I'm wondering then as well, you know, because you're coming in and you've got your own playing style as well. So did you have to tweak much of the Lordi songs to kind of put across your own style of playing, or was it just fun to kind of mix and kind of experiment with the solos?
It was a nice process of pretty much learning the original solos from the albums and then just figuring out stuff that, okay, I don't like to do that, I'd like to do this, and then try some different stuff, and then, you know, like keeping the frame of the original solos and then adding my own flair on that. And it's actually, I enjoy that process very much.
Nice. Okay. And what's enjoyable about it? Is it just kind of like it's kind of almost mathematical in a way, or is it just it's more creative? Do you find?
Yeah, I mean it is actually. Now that you said it, it's pretty mathematical, because you got the frames being like you got a point A and a point B, and then you have to fill in the gap and go from A to B somehow. Yeah. And that's where I have my space to put however many notes I can or like. Yeah. Okay. And yeah, I enjoy that process a lot.
Yeah, that's cool. And when you're obviously performing all this, you've got the added layer of wearing a costume on top of all of this. So
yes.
Those first, because you didn't have the novelty of performing like inside. You were on summer festivals to start with, so you had like the heat of the summer, beaming sun in front of thousands of people. So I'd say you were very, very sweaty and exhausted after those first few gigs. Then were you?
Yes, especially the second one.
Right.
The second one was it was a crazy hot day and the sun was shining directly on stage. And but also because the whole summer we did outdoors shows.
Yeah.
And then when we did the LORDI tour, those were my first indoor shows with the costume.
Okay.
And I gotta say they were also extremely hot and sweaty in certain places.
Yeah, you don't have any breeze hitting you on stage in a confined space then in a small gig or anything like that. So
yeah.
And then I presume then, well, when we spoke last time, you had literally kind of just finished recording SCREEM WRITERS GUILD with LORDI, and this was all done before you were obviously announced in the band. But the first time fans got to hear your own original guitar playing was on Lucifer Primeval when that was released. And when the first time I heard it, you know, the thing that really caught me is a great punch to that song. You know, there's lots of power, there's virtuosity in there, and it's a kind of a different style of playing than we would have heard on a LORDI track before that. And that energy, of course, that you have on stage, I think it comes across in the record too. It's really strong, it's really rhythmical, and it's fast as well, and there's such complexity to the playing at the same time. So I'm wondering, when you were recording this album with LORDI, did you have much say in the kind of creative process of it, or was everything kind of there and you had to just fill in different areas that needed, like the solos and that, or did you have much kind of say in how the riffs would go in the songs?
Actually, it was I recorded my parts with Mr Laurie, and it was kind of like almost exactly ready stuff that I was just supposed to play, but we ended up doing a lot of stuff that we kind of figure out together.
Okay.
And at the end, I was surprised how much creativity I had over the guitar stuff.
Cool.
And yeah, and for the solos, I did those by myself at home, and that was like pretty much a comfort zone for me because I had a lot of time and nobody was breathing down my neck. Yeah. And that's kind of that's also good and bad because you end up tweaking till you get crazy.
And I guess that's obviously a lot different to what Mr Laurie would have been used to as well, because he's very sure in his idea of what songs should be and how they're meant to sound. So most of the stuff is as you said, it's kind of ready to kind of go. You just kind of put your own layer on top of stuff. So I'm guessing that was a new experience for him in many ways then too.
Yeah, and he actually told me that that was the way he wanted us to record the guitars, or most of them, because he kind of wanted to see how me and him clash together musically. Okay. And he was very open. He was very open to my suggestions, and yeah, I was surprised how much he gave space for me to experiment or try different things.
That's cool. And
then it was also awesome when there was some stuff that felt odd or strange to me, something that I wasn't like familiar with, and then he always had something ready, and he would just kind of he would have a very clear template that do this, and so he's what's the word? The way he thinks and makes music is very very like fitting for me.
Nice.
Because
it's a perfect match.
If I'm feeling lazy and can't come up with something, he always has an idea.
Right. That's what you want.
Yes.
And the first track I noticed when the track list was released, and I was looking through the titles, the first one that kind of jumped out to me was Inhumanoid, and that's obviously a track that you and Mr Laurie co-wrote together. And
yes.
I was wondering, obviously that kind of song is a bit like an origin story in ways for Kone, and what kind of elements did you put into that song? Was it just the music side of things? Was it lyrically? Was it the idea of the song? Or
I think the guitar riff in the beginning is something from me, and then like the first half of the chorus. But Mr. Laurie did all the lyrics, and I was actually, because it was sort of my song because it came out from a demo that I sent to him.
Right.
And
okay.
I was super happy that he got so much out of it, and I was very happy when I heard the lyrics, and that the song title at least has like something to do with my character.
Yeah. Like
in a way, even though it's not about my character, the song, exactly. But it was just fun.
Yeah. It's parts of it really suit Kone, and then I get you. But it's really, like musically speaking, when we look at Inhumanoid, and then kind of, especially then in Scarecrow and Lycanthropical Island, a lot of the solos, they seem to be longer than the solos that we're kind of used to in Lordi. Because a lot of solos in songs, they can be a little bit short, and they're kind of just thrown in at times, especially in the kind of Dead Ache era and Spades for Breakfast. They're kind of not as long as they could tend to have been. But in this album, the solos are pretty long, and there's a lot. There's a lot of complexity in it. Like when you don't listen to the song and hear a lot of the same kind of guitar stuff going on, there's a lot more stuff going on there usually, and in I think, you've added a lot musically on this album, you know, because it stands out really well amongst all the other 17 albums that Lordi have done, guitar-wise. And, you know, you coming into a band like this first album, that's saying a lot, I think, you know, because I guess, well, as Lordi fans, we're kind of used to listening to a certain kind of guitar playing, and then hearing your stuff, it's really refreshing. And I think when you kind of listen to the record, do you think this album kind of gave you the opportunity to showcase your talents?
Yes, that's the right word for it. It was definitely kind of a showcasing situation. At least I felt like it, because I already noticed when we were laying down the rhythm guitars that there is a lot space for guitar solos, and I was of course happy with that.
Yeah.
Because as we spoke before, it's a huge change for a band to have a new guitarist. And speaking from a guitar nerd's perspective, I love the fact that the first album with the new guitarist has a lot of space for the new guitarist.
Exactly. Yeah.
Obviously, it's sort of a lot of pressure for me, but yeah, I'm super glad that I got to do all the solo things alone.
That's true. And another song, now that we're speaking about it, that is really different in probably the whole history of Lordi is The Bride. And
yes,
not just in the way that Mr. Laurie is singing clean, there's none of that growly, gravelly voice in that song, but it's a very country song, and there's a lot of kind of country twang in that track. And I guess, was this something new for you to experiment with, or have you kind of done this kind of stuff before? Because it's a brilliant song. Like, I don't really listen to a lot of country music myself now, but I loved it. And I thought, like, you got that kind of Lordi, when you throw in the Lordi element into things, you know, it kind of stuff that I wouldn't usually like, you know, it becomes a little bit more likable, you know, disco and all that kind of stuff. You throw in all the kind of stuff, it's a little bit more enjoyable. So was that a new kind of experience for you, kind of doing the country side of stuff?
It was a big surprise for me to hear that we are going to do like a country-ish song, but I loved it. I love country music, and I listen to it a lot, and sometimes try to learn how to play country music. And it was wonderful to lay down some acoustic guitars and slide guitar with a resonator guitar, and it was just super fun. And that solo, actually, I recorded the solo at the session when we did the rhythm guitars, and I think it's the first solo that I played for the album.
Oh, really? Okay. Right.
Yeah, I had like a crazy good feeling about it, because I didn't expect to play like clean-ish guitar solos at all in this band, and I was super excited about it.
That's awesome. And like, I'm guessing when you come into this band as well, you know, you've got other members that have been there for quite a long time now, because Mana and Hella have been in the band 10 years now. And then obviously Hisi has been in for what, 2 or 3 now at this point. And I wonder, when you came in and you were doing the stuff with Mr. Laurie, did you have much kind of experience then recording with any of the other members of the band, or was it kind of just, you know, obviously they're doing their bits at separate times to you?
Actually, Hisi was present when we had the first guitar sessions.
Right.
We did basses first, so I was sitting in a corner when Hisi recorded most of the basses.
Right.
And but then the first time we all actually met, like the first time we were all 5 of us in the same room, we were recording the background vocals.
Ah, okay.
And that was super fun, because we were we were already in the booth, and I think we were already like shouting some gang vocals, and then somebody just pointed out that this is actually the first time we're all in the same room together.
That's pretty fitting as well, like, because
Yeah.
because I remember when I spoke to Mr Laurie about you coming into the band back last summer, and we were doing the interview then, he said that, you know, this is the first time that we've had all 5 members of the band singing all together, backing vocals as well. So that's also, it's always nice to have that new voice in the songs too, because it adds a bit more diversity to the music as well.
Yes, totally.
Yeah. You obviously, your costume was revealed pretty soon after, you know, your logo was kind of unveiled last summer. And when you kind of seen your costume for the first time and you kind of wore it, you know, what was your first reaction when you seen that first Kone costume?
It's a pretty cool feeling. I mean, it's hard to describe because it's pretty rare for us humans to get that like new identity and new look, like completely new look. I was super happy seeing the first version of me, and the image of the brand new suit and mask and everything is something that I will probably hopefully remember for the rest of my life, because it's like looking into a mirror and seeing something totally different for the first time ever.
That's awesome. And did you have much of a kind of like say in your character or kind of the design of your costume?
Yeah, we had long discussions on ideas about my character, and it's hard to remember because it's been so long. so much has happened ever since. But yeah, it was very much kind of like open forum for me and Mr Laurie to throw around ideas. I mean, obviously the visual stuff comes from him. I can't draw or paint or anything. But I was super happy the way I came out.
And your costume, I guess, it hasn't had much wear and tear. Given that you've had this new costume now, literally, like you've had 2 costumes in the space of 1 year, pretty much. And this new design, obviously it's kind of calling back on kind of Wolfman, and there's some elements that kind of, to me anyway, look like bat-like, and then you've got cyborg stuff thrown in then as well for Kone, obviously. So did you have much of a say in this design, or was it kind of, you know, still the same kind of thing that was Mr Laure's idea and that?
I did have some say. I don't actually remember what was the stuff that I said. But I mean, I think everybody agreed on the fact that I need to get bigger, and so I have gotten bigger now.
Okay.
Yeah, and now that you said the first costume actually just have significant wear and tear, because touring for 9.5 weeks actually takes a lot of toll on the costumes, especially when you move around with it so much.
Okay. And was that something?
Also the smell is.
I can imagine what the smell is like. But I'm guessing when you obviously then come to this new costume, and you know, you've got the kind of silver pants and everything like that, probably a little bit more flexible than the last ones. Does that kind of, you know, when you see how much it tears and it wears down in such kind of, I guess, a brief period of time, then does that kind of affect the design of the next one then, do you think? You know, do you have to kind of toy around and see what works better for the new design?
I mean, kind of like I think there were some parts that we figured out that this is not gonna be visible from behind the guitar, and something that kind of evolves itself around the way I have to move, like to play guitar and stuff like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
But
all the necessary things.
I don't know. I think it's gonna get at least as much wear and tear,
if not more.
Yeah.
And obviously talking about the design kind of side of things of this new character, you know, I spoke to Hisi last week, and I was asking him, you know, what his favorite old school horror monster is, and I was wondering, do you have a favorite horror monster, or do you like horror movies or anything like that?
I obviously love horror movies, but it's pretty hard to decide on a favorite monster. I mean, because 90% of time of me looking at monsters, it's always Eddie from Iron Maiden.
Yeah.
So there is no monster to top that.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, but in horror movies, I'm always drawn to more people-like characters.
Right. Okay.
You know, like Freddy or Jason or stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. And then I guess the first time we're going to see you in a music video is going to be next Friday, when Dead Again Jane's kind of released.
Yes.
That whole process, I know from speaking to Hisi and then to Mr Laurie, you know, that was a long day of shooting.
It was, yes.
Exhausted, and you know, you're kind of sitting down for a bit and then you're needed for different parts and that. So how was that whole kind of experience of recording the music video, obviously in costume and everything like that, for you?
It's exactly how you describe it. It's a long day, and it's exhausting, and a lot of sitting around, and then again a lot of standing around, and then at the moment that you think that you can just sit around and wait, you need to go, and then when you're ready to go, you're told to sit around and wait.
Oh yeah, I can only imagine.
Exactly.
It would be. But I guess obviously for you now in the next couple of weeks, you know, the album releases next Friday, and then after that,
yes,
2 weeks until you're on tour with Sabaton. So it's coming into a very busy period for LORDI. So what is exciting to you then in the future for the band?
The most exciting stuff for me is obviously touring and all the shows.
Yeah.
I love traveling, and after the last tour we did, I've been extremely hungry for more cities and places to go to and see more people in the crowd. The live experience in this band is, for me, it's the best thing that I think music in general has to offer.
Yeah. To
play live and to go to places, and also I do enjoy the bus life because it's so simple.
Yeah.
you only have that one narrow bed of your own space, and that's the only place you have to worry about.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Not a house or anything like that to worry about.
Yeah, and there's nobody telling you need to wake up, or get out of bed.
That is true. So before we kind of finish up, I, as I said to you at the start, I kind of asked for fans to kind of send in their questions. So
yes,
I've got a couple here for you. So the first one is from the Deadache, and she wants to know, where do you get your amazing energy from?
That's a hard question to answer because I don't do anything to gain energy. I only notice after the show that I'm exhausted. I think playing a very energetic show is it's like taking energy from your later self. Then you realize an hour after the show that you are extremely exhausted and beaten down.
So that when you're about to go on stage, so that adrenaline kind of kicks in, that kind of fuels you then for the rest of the performance, like.
Yeah, Yeah. Actually, it's pretty funny. It varies a lot on the moments of walking on stage from behind the curtains or whatever, but it's always the same feeling during the first song or first two songs. That's when it kind of hits me every time.
Right.
No matter how energetic I have been during the day, but somehow even for the last shows on the tour, I was kind of being sick, like actually sick with the flu, and I was super afraid that I'm gonna fuck up the show and I'm not gonna be good and energetic. But in the end, I just noticed on stage that I am actually enjoying myself and having a lot of fun, and it just happens.
Yeah. The other question I have is from Jay Samalisto, and he wants to know, was it your idea to have epic dance moves when you're performing Believe Me?
I don't know, or I don't remember whose idea was it. We're actually, will me and Mr. Laurie do a lot of dances during sound checks, and the Believe Me dancing just kind of evolved from there, and other members of the band were pretty much, they told me that I should go for it.
The next question is from Dizzy Darko 93, and they want to know, what guitars do you use for recording the new album, and which one is the Kone K1 guitar? So I guess like the best guitar, I'm presuming there.
Let me think. I think all the electric guitars are actually done on the black M1, the one with the silver K logo.
Right.
Except for the Bride, the Bride guitar solo, the clean one, is recorded with one of Mr. Lordi's guitars. And then for the acoustic guitars, I had a random acoustic at home, and also same goes for the resonator guitar on the Bride.
Cool. And the final question that I have for you is from Maximilian Dervazkidik, and he wants to know, what's your dream festival lineup?
Well, the obvious first act, the main act, is Iron Maiden, and then maybe Def Leppard.
Okay.
I wasn't prepared for this. Maybe Extreme, LORDI, obviously. I'm trying to think of something more. Well, this is a hard one actually, because at the same time I'm blanking out, and then too much stuff comes to mind. But I mean, those are the main three, I think.
Cool.
Like, that's how I feel right now. If you asked me that an hour later, it could be totally different. But right now it's Iron Maiden, Def Leppard, and Extreme.
What a terrific autopsy that was, and I hope you all enjoyed our little traipse through Kone's cryptid circuit board there. Join me next week for another horrifying creature feature. Until then, goodbye.
Monsters of Rock, the Lordi story, is a true metal podcast production. The show is presented, produced and written by Matthew Kessing. Head to True Metal Pod's social channels to keep up to date with the production.